curious about using smaller races to prepare for a marathon and how to avoid peaking at the wrong time. Patrick.
Great stuff, Patrick. Using smaller races or shorter races before a marathon is a valuable strategy to make sure that you are race ready on the day of your marathon. There's a couple things to keep in mind about using smaller races before a marathon. First and foremost, you want to make sure that the races that you're running are specific to the marathon. And you do this simply by making sure that you're not racing, say, the mile before a marathon as opposed to a half marathon. It's pretty standard to race a half marathon as a tune-up race roughly 4 to 6 weeks before your marathon. This is helpful in a lot of ways. Number one, it's going to give you an accurate estimate of your fitness level so that you can fine-tune your marathon pace goals for your goal marathon. It's also going to really reinforce the race day strategy for you. So everything from getting up early, making sure that your breakfast that day is dialed in and you're not eating anything new. All of the steps that you have to take the morning of a race to make sure that you're doing everything appropriately is going to be very beneficial for you to practice before your goal marathon. And then, of course, it's just really valuable to get in a very long, hard effort. The half marathon at 13.1 miles is very specific to the marathon. You're going to be racing, of course, faster than you would during the marathon, but obviously a lot slower than if you're running a shorter race. And that brings me to kind of the last section of your question, which is how do you avoid burnout? And so burnout and peaking at the wrong time are very similar in that if you peak at the wrong time, so if you peak early, you're going to be burned out for your marathon. If you peak after your marathon, and you won't really know this unless you run a race, and that will be kind of impossible since you'll be recovering from the marathon, then you're just going to be flat on race day and you're not really going to run to your true potential. So what's really helpful is to make sure that you're not running too many short races. And you can do this by making sure that any races that you run of, say, 10K or shorter aren't done at 100% effort. Now, of course, there's some wiggle room and you can always break any rule in running. And I think that you can run fast 5Ks and 10Ks during a marathon training cycle. But if you run them too close to your marathon or even too early in the training cycle, or if you run too many of them, you're going to get burned out or you're going to peak too early for the marathon because it's really a question about intensity levels. The marathon's not very intense, but a 5K surely is. So if you're running a 5K every other week, starting at week 2 of a 16 or 20 week marathon training plan, you're going to peak way too early for that marathon. So my suggestion is to limit the number of races that you do before a marathon to roughly 1 to 3 and to try to keep the distances of those races somewhere in the 10K to half marathon range. Of course, you can run races up to 25 kilometers, which is going to be, let's see if my math is correct, 15.5 miles. Did that in my head. Very proud of myself. And you can still run long races like that and still run a fantastic marathon. You'll just want to make sure that you leave at least 2 to 3 weeks after your last race before your goal marathon, and that will ensure that you're still primarily focusing on training for the marathon and not racing all of these shorter races, and that you don't peak too soon. So really great question. Thanks a lot, and good luck with your goal marathon coming up.